Hey everybody, and welcome to the first of a series of training videos that I have put together in order to make your life a little bit easier in the field. The first one that we're going to go over today is my all-time favorite, which is Courtesies. Courtesies are very, very simple to use. There's really only one way to do it, and I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. So for this video's sake, I'm going to use some generic video. Here we've got some crime scene, and we're going to pretend like this is video that we got from a viewer. So I'm going to create a title frame. Now I'm not going to want to create it in the middle of a video sequence because, as you can see, you will create a title sequence and it will split whatever video that you have. So what you're going to want to do is to actually go to the end of your timeline or anywhere past your timeline and create your title scene there. First thing we want to check is to see if that we've got it's saved, which we're going to do right now, and then we're going to go ahead and drag it on top of our video. This makes it a little bit easier because then we can type and we can kind of see what we're typing on top of our video and see what it looks like. So now we're going to go back into our title frame, and from there we're going to go ahead and put in our viewer name that gave us this video. And for this particular case, I'm just going to type something here. And we'll just type John Q Viewer. You'll see that it is in the top left-hand corner. That's the orientation. We're using the new Wink Courtesy. I've installed it on all of the laptops. And if you don't have it, you need to let me know as soon as possible. And if you're looking for the actual font, it's this DIN Next LT Pro, and it is size 28. It is always that font. It is always that size. It is always the orientation in the top left. You can use your little scroll to make sure that there is no edge and that there is no shadow on this particular font. So once you've got it, go ahead and come up here and click on Save. But before that, if you're ever wondering where you need to put your Courtesy, you can find out by adding the Title Safe area. So if you don't have it, make sure you go ahead and add that in by going to View and looking up Title Safe area. That will make sure that you have the font exactly where it needs to go. So now we're just going to go ahead and save that. And then we can scrub through this video here, and we can see that John Q Viewer has provided us with all of this lovely, lovely footage, which is not, it's ours, but we're just using this as an example. And if I double click here and show you full screen, you can see exactly what that Courtesy looks like, John Q Viewer. And you'll see that the big difference between the last version of Wink Courtesies and this one is that we do upper and lower case. So if it's a name, you'll want to upper and lower case that, and also if it's a proper name or a name of a business. So next up, I'm going to kind of show you what this might look like if the color of the background is a little bit too close to the color of the font, which is, again, always white. If we look at this full screen, we can see that it's pretty close, but it's still actually pretty discernible, so we're not going to go ahead and change anything with this particular one right here. However, there will be cases where you may actually not be able to see the Courtesy at all, and if that is the case, and I'm just going to kind of create a color mat real quick here, just something that's plain white, so we can kind of see what a white light background and a font look like together, or a Courtesy look like together. So I'm going to go ahead and create this color mat and just lay that on the bottom here. And then if we take a look full screen, we cannot identify the Courtesy at all in this particular instance. So in this case, and only this case, you can put a drop shadow on it. You will do that through your layouter, F7, and go ahead and click Enable Drop Shadow. And that's a little bit too much. It's still a little fuzzy. You can't really quite see that. So we're going to dial down this distance. We're going to dial that back down, and 5 actually looks pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and save that by clicking on OK. And now we can double click and look to see what this looks like full screen. And now you can see that we've kind of separated the Courtesy from the background. This is, again, the only time that you can change the Courtesy, and it's by putting a drop shadow. And you're putting the drop shadow on through your layouter and not through the actual title sequence by putting the shadow on there. Two different things. Okay, now here's another example, and we can see at the top there that we really can't see it very well. I'm going to kind of move my cursor here to get rid of that little caret and go back in here. We really can't see that that courtesy at all. I mean, technically, I can take a screenshot of that and prove to somebody that we did do a courtesy, and that would be completely okay. But, you know, to make it stand out a little bit, we're going to go ahead and repeat the process that we did before, and you'll be able to see it on a real-life example of being able to put that drop shadow on. So we're going to F7 back into our layouter, and we're going to go down here and enable that drop shadow again, and we're going to go ahead and dial that distance back down to, I believe, the 5 look the best. So you can use that slider, or you can always just go into that where it's in the number column right there, and just you can kind of highlight that and then change that manually to a 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever it is, whatever you think looks the best. There's really no standard on that. So, but if we go back in now, we can see that is looking pretty good. Now, in case you were wondering what you should do for a social media courtesy, well, we no longer use the social media bugs. So now really what we only do is we use somebody's handle. So we're going to go ahead and double click on this Gronk video here, and you'll see that I've just added the @Gronk, which is just his Instagram handle, which is where we got this video from. We don't need to put, Instagram, Rob Gronkowski and his handle. We can just put his handle, and that's perfectly okay. The one thing that you do want to be aware of when you're courtesying someone with a handle, either from Instagram or from Twitter, is that not every single handle is NSFW or suitable for air either. There have been instances where we've credited people and their handle has not been exactly TV friendly, so we have to be careful with that. And that also goes for profile pictures, and then obviously any text that people might have in their profile as well. Finally, one thing that we do for older videos, so if you're using something from Oasis and you need to differentiate from your two videos, and what I mean by that is if you were doing a story on Red Tide and you wanted to show some video from 2018, you could, but you would want to differentiate that from the video that you're using on that particular day. So what we're going to do here is, I'm just going to use this as an example, is we're going to go ahead and put a date on this video. So we're going to go ahead, and this video was taken this was from a story in July of last year, 2020. So we're going to go ahead and just put July 2020. And we're going to go ahead and take a look to see what this looks like, because it might be a little bit too light for this one. And actually, if we kind of scrub through it, we can see it barely in that first piece of VO, that first shot. But in the rest of the video, we can see it just fine. So, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could go to that first cut and then come down here. And you can have that one have a drop shadow, and then the rest can be just the way it is, because we can see that just fine. I mean, technically, even in that first frame, we don't really need it, but it just makes it stand out a little bit better. So remember, drop shadow only through the layouter, never through the title sequence where it says shadow, only through the layouter. When you are putting on a date for something, so if we look here, we've got July 2020. That's fine. You don't want to shorten that, because you don't want to have it say like Jul, J-U-L, Jule of 2020. So go with, the full spelling of July, full spelling of June, March, April, and May. But if this were something like, if it was a January, February, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you could go ahead, and we'll go ahead and kind of change it right now to, let's go ahead and go with September. But instead of typing out all of September, I'm just going to go ahead and type out SEP. That's all we need, SEP, SEP 2020. And you don't need any kind of punctuation. The one last very, very important thing to remember is we never, ever, ever put the word file on video, ever. There is zero exception to this. It's kind of assumed that file video is file video. And again, if it's something that we need to differentiate, we will put the date on that. And the other thing that you have to remember is that we don't put courtesy or credit or anything like that with the name. So if we get something from John Q Viewer, we don't need to put courtesy of John Q Viewer or credit John Q Viewer. We don't need to do that. By having his name up in the top left-hand corner, we're assuming that everybody realizes that we're giving that person credit for that video. All right, guys, so this has been the first of a series of videos that I will have for you to hopefully try to make your life a little bit easier out in the field and ready to go wherever you may need them. Until the next tutorial, catch you on the flippity flip.
Huzzah! Great Scott!